So Trump has been kicking him while he's down.
He's always down. Trump thinks like a businessman. It's kind of nothing less than Starmer's deserved. He's handled, I think, this war very badly. None of that has been helped this week by the idiot Rachel Reeves. She's no good at being Chancellor, and she's certainly no good at international relations. For years now, we've had military chiefs warning about what's going to happen if we don't rearm. We are in peril. We are not safe. And when that moment comes, Britain is stuffed.
Hello and welcome to today's Daily Expresso. I'm JJ Anisiobi, but more importantly, this is Carole Malone.
I actually need hospital treatment now because you've just frightened the life out of me as I came through that door.
I did.
Jumping. That's how people die. That's how people have heart attacks at my age.
We've got insurance for that, Carole. You'll be fired.
Well, will I? I won't. My husband might be, but not me.
Let's kick off straight away, Carole, with your favourite man.
Yeah.
Sir Keir Starmer.
I love him.
Yes. So Trump has been kicking him while he's down.
What do you mean when he's down? He's always down. I mean, he's just fair game. Yes, the Donald has come out today and said that he's very upset with him still. He's very upset that he said he didn't help him. He said he wasn't there when he needed him. So what he's come out today is sort of threatened to change the trade deal. Which is kind of interesting. You know, he said, I gave him a better deal than I needed to. Mm-hmm. And he said, and of course that could change. Now, it's interesting. Trump thinks like a businessman. You know, he's always been a case of, if you're good to me, I'll be good to you. If you're not good to me, watch me hurt you. Yeah. And that's kind of how this is playing out. And, the thing is, it's kind of nothing less than Starmer's deserved. He's handled, I think, this war very badly. He just, in the beginning, it was like he was scared. He made it look like we were scared. All he had to do was give him access to the military bases, and that would have been fine. Yeah. But he didn't do that. He caused a big fuss about that. He's now also said he wouldn't take part in the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Of course, he will want the oil when it's flowing again, but he's not prepared to help get that. But I think, I don't know what they expect Trump to do. He's not a politician in the truest sense of the word. He is actually a businessman, mm-hmm. and he thinks in terms of business. And so if someone trashes him, if someone stabs him in the back as he sees it, what he's going to do it back. But that's pretty bad for us in the sense that, whether you hate Trump, whether you love him, whether you think he's a lunatic, whatever, we need him, because the bottom line is if we do get attacked, mm-hmm. We're going to be in big trouble, and we're going to depend on America to look after us. And none of that has been helped this week by the idiot Rachel Reeves actually saying how very angry and frustrated she is with Donald Trump and how she doesn't agree with the war and how this isn't our war. What does she do? Just butt out. She's no good at being Chancellor, and she's certainly no good at international relations. But, and Trump will come back on that. He will come back on us for that. We've got to try and repair this relationship. Starmer actually was stupid enough to say the special relationship doesn't depend on one incumbent of the White House at any one time. Well, it kind of does for the next 2 years. Yeah. And a lot can happen in the next 2 years. And as we have two wars raging currently at the moment in Iran and Ukraine, we kind of need to keep America on side. And we especially need to keep America on side because what this war has exposed is the fact that this country cannot defend itself. Mm. If there was war in this country, if what happened to Ukraine happened to us, mm-hmm. we are going to be in huge trouble.
But in defence of Starmer, and that's
please
nothing.
don't.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to, but I feel I've got to.
Go on then. Try.
I always say that he's spineless. He's a king of U-turns. He's got no chutzpah about him, right?
Yeah.
But with Trump, he's shown actually, I don't agree with the war, so I'm not going to send the UK into this. Trump, you're on your own. We should be congratulating him now for standing up for finally.
No, you're talking about Starmer as if he's a strategist, like he understands what could and could not happen. He has no understanding of that. He just panicked, and the people in his cabinet, the people in his party, the hard left, were saying you do not get involved in this. And the only reason Starmer makes any decision these days is if it's going to affect him personally, if it's going to affect his life and his job and his status as Prime Minister, and that's why he did this. He didn't do it because he thought it was a wise thing. This was purely, it has turned out to be, it's not even a smart thing to do, but it's turned out to be maybe the right thing to do for the simple reason that he really didn't know what to do, and he just did what his backbenchers told him, which was not get involved. Say it's not my war. But, there's going to come a point, we're not always going to have a choice about which war we get involved in. We had a choice about this one. There will come a time when there's a war that we don't have a choice about whether or not we join. And when that moment comes, Britain is stuffed because its military is non-existent. I don't blame any of the... when I talk about the military, I'm not slagging off the men and women who serve in our military. I'm talking about the idiots who actually have starved it of cash. And, for years now, we've had military chiefs warning about what's going to happen if we don't rearm. Yeah. And this week we have Lord George Robertson, who was one of the members on the Defence Committee review. There's three of them. All three of them have come out and said, the words they have used, this is their phrases. Yeah. We are in peril. We are not safe. We are underprepared. We are underinsured. We are under attack. And Robertson, it's interesting, this is a guy who was a very well-respected defence minister. He then became NATO Secretary General. So he is a respected man in this field. And he has chosen this moment in time, after months of quietly briefing the government and saying, you have to change on this. He's now come out just a few weeks before, less than 2 weeks before the elections, to stuff Starmer up. And the timing is interesting, I think, that he's purposely done this. And what he's actually said is we have to trim the benefits budget and put it into the defence budget. And he's absolutely right. We have to do that. We have 11 million people in this country who are choosing not to work. We have 6.5 million people who are on out-of-work benefits. We have 1 million young people who aren't in work or education. We have 1.5 million people on universal credits. And we have the sickness and disability part of the benefits bill is rising. It's the fastest rising sector of the welfare budget. Yeah. And the predictions are that by the end of the decade, by 2030, the whole welfare budget will be something like 406 billion. And of that, 106 billion will be sickness and disability. Now, we have to get that under control. Under Starmer, this country has become about welfare, not work. And it always matters, but it especially matters now. I've had arguments with people in the past couple of days about this. People are saying, these wars aren't our wars. And just a really short-termist view. The whole point about having a decent amount of weapons is that, in fact, there was a veteran said it on the front page of the Express the other day. Forgive me, his name has just gone out of my head. It shouldn't. But he said, the reason you have to have lots of arms and a good arsenal is so that you're strong enough that people don't attack you. Yeah. That's the point. It's not about us fighting a war and going to war. It's about us having enough so that people don't think they can mess with us. And it's interesting, there was a veteran rang into a show that I was doing earlier today.
And you can name the show. You never like name. You can name it.
No, it was a Vine show today. I like Jeremy Vine.
You can name him.
And this lovely veteran rang in and said, when he was in service in the Falklands, he said within a day of the Falklands being attacked, we had warships there. Within a week, we had 2,000 soldiers there. We couldn't muster that right now. Yeah. And we were protecting British citizens abroad. And there's this very short-termist view now that, we only protect the people of this island. No, we've got to protect British citizens wherever they are. And the idea that Iran might not attack British interests around the world is farcical. We've got lots of interests in the Middle East. We've got interests in Cyprus. We cannot take Iran on. We've got nothing to take them on with. And yet, the welfare bill, the rise in it this year, it's shocking. It's £18 billion is rising this year. That would finance the building of 15 new frigates and 220 jet fighters, of which we have very few. Just that 18 billion quid. We now spend 5 times more on welfare than we do on defence. How stupid is that?
So our armed forces are the weakest, I think, that they've ever been. But what was it like back in the day? You'd know better than me, like the 100-Year War with France. What was it like back then? They were stronger?
Yes.
You enjoyed plentiful times then?
If we're talking about the defence of our country, be serious. Be serious, because it is a very important subject. And that sort of attitude does us no favours. The bottom line is we have the smallest military now since Napoleonic times. Yeah. No, I wasn't around then.
Do we have to be more realistic, Carole, and think that maybe Britain just isn't what we once were?
No, it's not that we're certainly not what we once were. It's not about that. It's about protecting your citizens. It's about national security. Mm-hmm. It's about not being a sitting duck for any tin pot dictator that decides to attack us. We have to be strong enough for them to say, no, we won't attack them because they'll hit back.
Yeah.
And that's what, when Trump has a go at us about this, that's what he's talking about, because he knows full well that we depend on America to protect us, and are doing so as we speak. We shouldn't have to depend on America. We should have our own weapons, our own forces. And I just don't understand a country that has tens of millions of people not working, people who are sick. We have numbers of the sick numbers now are just every day 1,000 new people sign up for universal credit. So the sickness benefits it's the biggest growth section of our welfare budget.
Yeah.
Why is the whole country just gone sick, or is the whole country just scamming? And that's what's happening now.
Scamming and softness.
Scamming is happening. Every time we talk about the welfare budget, people talk about, well, let's cut the triple lock then. Let's hit pensioners. Let's means test the triple lock. Why don't we means test every single person on sickness benefits, on disability benefits, on out-of-work benefits? Why don't we do that? Because you will cut the numbers in half in a second. Yeah. I even spoke to a woman today who works in mental health for children, and she said way too much money is being squandered on mental health, on giving kids benefits and our parents benefits. She said they shouldn't be getting them because they've got a condition like ADHD. They shouldn't be having benefits for that, but they are. And that is taking away from our defence budgets.
Yeah. Well, Trump also attacked the UK and said that we're being invaded by people from prisons, drug dealers, and people from mental institutions.
Well, I don't know about the mental institutions part, but I think the first two are absolutely, he's not wrong in that. We are being invaded by people. And the most important thing, we don't know who these people are because they chucked the papers overboard. We don't know how many people we have in this country now from Iran. We know that they have got cells in this country that are working against us. But how many people are coming in on the boats? How many would-be terrorists are coming in the boats? How many gangsters? How many mafia-style Albanians? How many drug gangs are coming on the boats? And that's the problem. The idea that everyone on these boats has the potential of being a hard-working British citizen is nonsense. They're coming here for the spoils this country offers. I think we talked about it last week briefly, that, we have British officials going across to France, begging people not to get on the boat, saying, please don't come. It's not what you think. It's not all free houses and benefits. And, of course, it is all free houses and benefits.
I think of course, no one who comes on a small boat should be given free housing and the lot. But I think anyone who comes in the country on a small boat and doesn't have any kind of identification
straight back out.
Yeah, 100% straight back out. And that would instantly stop people from coming across without identification.
We saw what happened when there was just a suggestion that when the Tories were about to impose the Rwanda thing, the number of migrants coming stopped here. They went to Ireland instead because they knew they thought they might not, if they got here, they were going to go to Rwanda. That was just the talk of Rwanda. So imagine what a real deterrent would do if they knew they got here without papers, without any form of identification, and from safe countries that they'd be taken straight back out. They wouldn't come. Yeah. It costs $4 or $5 a time to come. They wouldn't do it.
Absolutely. Now, awkwardly, King Charles is due to go to the US.
Yes.
Is it going to be an issue for Charles to go there and Trump to say, Starmer's a loser?
I think he will. That's a terrible invitation.
That was actually a fantastic.
It was a terrible invitation.
So good.
No,
so good.
No, it's not good.
No,
it's really not. It's so bad. So bad. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be awkward. I think the whole point of the whole reason Charles is there is to try and repair the special relationship. So I don't think it'll necessarily be Trump that brings up Starmer. I think it'll be the other way around because the King will have taken not instructions from, but he will have talked to Starmer, I am sure, and they will have talked about what should be said and how Charles should go about trying to repair it. And although Starmer does not deserve to be bailed out by our King, the point is he will bail him out, and I'm sure that Charles will go a long way to repairing the special relationship because Trump respects the king.
He's
a bit in awe of the king, and he loves the royals in general. And he feels, I think he actually loves Britain. I do. He feels British. His mum was from Scotland, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think he feels British, and I think it really upsets him to fall out with us, because what he's doing, the way he's treating us now, it's the reactions of a hurt toddler.
Yeah.
He's hurt. Yeah. He's upset. And so he's kicking out and he's kicking back like, immature people do. And I think that Charles will go a long way to repairing that. It was interesting, there was chat today whether Charles and the Queen should talk to any of Epstein's victims while they're there. And I'm thinking that would be the most terrible idea on the planet. One, because it would serve neither party well, because his victims might see Charles as part of the problem. That maybe the royal family didn't act quick enough with Andrew. Maybe they didn't do enough to stop him, whatever. And I think that the Charles would not want to say anything over there or come out that would create headlines in America that would be detrimental to the purpose of the visit. But it is interesting that a lot of people think he should talk to the victims. I find that...
I don't think he should.
Neither do I.
No.
I think you could cause an international incident. And the bottom line is they're not British people. They're American people. The American peoples are dealing with them. It's not really our business, apart from the fact that Andrew may or may not have been involved. And... so I think they should just stay well out of that, and I'm pretty sure they will.
Well, speaking of Charles, his wayward son Harry has been accused. And I say the word accused because I don't think he has done this, but has been accused of firing a new dig at King Charles.
Well, he has.
So has he? Harry's down in Australia,
right?
And he told the audience that he said at some Movember event. He told the audience, "I see parenting evolving over time. Our kids are our upgrade. Not to say that I upgraded my dad or that my kids upgraded me, but the kids that we bring up in today's world need to be upgraded." Is that a dig at Charles? I don't think so.
It feels like a dig, and I think it's been interpreted as a dig.
It's been interpreted as one, but I think
by a lot of people as a dig.
Bandwagon.
The thing is, he's just, he needs a guard with him at all times to tell him what to do and tell him what to say. It's quite, if his father takes this the right, if I was his dad, I would take this the wrong way, because what he's basically saying is, he wants to be an upgrade of his father. Now, unlike Harry, his father had a proper job when he was bringing him up. He also lost his wife and the mother of his children in the middle of all of this, and he tried his very best at the time to make it as good as he could. Now, I suspect Charles wasn't shown much love as a child, and you can only try and learn from that, which I'm sure he did. But I remember all the outings, the pictures of the two, the three of them together out and about. They looked happy, They didn't look like kids who were being neglected, or their father would hug them and cuddle them in public, and they would laugh together and play together and go on holiday together. And I think it would be, any father hearing that his son wants to upgrade him would be, it's a monstrously insulting thing to say, but it's also a very cruel thing to say in the light of the circumstances of Harry's growing up. I think it's incredibly cruel, especially with a father who did try his very best under the worst of circumstances, and who was also trying to hold down the job of being, the king in waiting. And he was busy. Of course he was busier than most people.
Yes, but even as a father, if my son eventually says he wants to be a better father than I was...
No, that's different. That's different. The word he used was upgrade. And I think it's a very cack-handed, bizarre choice of words. If everyone wants to be the best dad they can be, but I think to say you want to be a better dad than your father is insulting to your father, because most fathers, the majority of fathers, do their level best. They're not all great at it, but they try their best and they do what they think is the best. My dad grew up at a time when nobody said, "I love you." Fathers didn't hug their daughters. They didn't say, I think my dad said, I love you for the first time when I was about 17 or 18. And then he never stopped saying it after that. But I think before that, my dad was like a tough guy from the north, and men like him didn't talk about love
and their feelings,
even though that they adored their children, worshipped their children. My dad never said to me, he never uttered the words he was proud of me until much later in life. And then, and I used to be a bit upset about that. And my mum said, you don't get it, dear. He walks around, because, I've had columns for a very long time in papers. And he used to walk around on the day of my column with the paper turned outwards in his back pocket, so that people would say, that's your Carole's column. And he'd go, oh, yeah, she's written it. So that was his way of doing that. So I think you do your best in the way you can do it. But my feeling about this trip, Harry's the spare part on this trip. He's just trying to make his presence felt on a trip where he really has no place at all. And Meghan is over there. She's making fortunes. She's trying to make money out there. She's charging 1,400 quid a ticket for people to go and listen to whatever it is she has to say. And she's also out there trying to promote her As Ever brand. So they've obviously tried to get a few engagements together for Harry to fill his time in. And of course, he's managed to make headlines here with it already, insulting his dad. And for a bloke who keeps on saying he wants to get back with his father, he wants to repair relations, he wants to come back and bring his kids here, it's not really the way to do it.
Maybe not. Carole, what was your dad's name, by the way?
He was called Jim.
Jim.
He was called Jim, yes.
Jim Malone.
Jim Malone.
That sounds like a gangster
He was
name.
a big noise in
Jim
West
Malone.
Allotment, was Jim Malone. We lived in a little mining village called West Allotment, and a population about 1,800. And he was the chairman of the local working men's club, and that's a big job there.
Yeah.
That's a big job.
Yeah.
And he took it very seriously. It was like that little club set me in good stead for my whole life, because I saw people there who had nothing. I saw people there, who were scrimping and scraping to live, and yet they had happy families. They cared about their kids. They're one thing in life. I was talking about the other day, it was never about careers in those days. It was about getting food on the table, paying your rent. It wasn't about, what can I do to better myself? It was what can I do for my kids?
Yeah.
And yes, they might not have been shouting the words "I love you" around, but they were working all the hours God sends to make sure their kids were okay. That my dad's working men's club, where I learned to play bingo. By the way, I'm a bingo fiend. Was just like a little microcosm of life in there, and I saw it all, and it stood me in very good stead. I thank them all.
I know we're getting off topic here, but how we as a country we've lost that. Like you say, you talk about your working men's club there. Yeah. My county state where I grew up on, everyone helping each other and just trying to just get along with life.
My mum had nothing for a lot of my early years. Then she bought a shop. How, in God's name, she saved up for that. It was a house with a shop in the front. She got that shop. And my job at a weekend was, my mum knew all the elderly people in the area, and the ones who were infirm, the ones who could cook for themselves and the one who couldn't. And before I had my Sunday lunch, I had to deliver about 4 to other people, to the elderly people. That doesn't happen anymore in communities. No. Or maybe it does, and I just don't know about it because I live in the capital city. But, that doesn't happen. If someone was ill, we knew they were ill, and you went and looked after them. As a kid, I'd go after school to someone who couldn't get their own coal in, who couldn't make their own dinner. We did all of that, and my mum instilled that into me. Even now, I stop old people on the street and say, "Can I give you a lift?" And obviously, they think I'm a lunatic, because that doesn't work anymore in this country, because people think they're going to get attacked.
Yeah.
But that was a big thing with my ma and pa. They taught me that you got to look after people who can't look after themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that exists anymore.
No, that's a shame.
It's a big shame. It is a big shame.
Let's move on to our final story of the day. Robert Jenrick has called for the parents of Axel Ruda-Cabana to be deported.
Got that right.
Thank you.
To me, this just feels a bit like bandwagony stuff. A lot of people out there are calling for the parents to be deported. If you're going to deport them, well, are we going to throw in jail the psychiatrist who let Ruda-Cabana back out on the streets 3 days before he murdered, saying that he was no threat, he was a minimal threat? Are we going to jail the people who, the mental health workers, or the social workers, the child social services, who saw him? They saw that he was obsessed with violence. They knew about his weapons history. Are we going to charge the police, who actually his parents called 4 or 5 times and said, "Our son is a danger, we're frightened of him, he's got knives"? The cops went and they gave the mother a lecture about putting away their kitchen knives. I'm sorry, if the might of the British state did not stop this boy, this monster, how did they expect 2 terrified, probably not very bright parents? Yes, of course, they had some responsibility. Maybe they could have done more. Maybe when they found the knife packaging in the bin, they could have done more. But I think, you take into account it's their son. you always believe your child is going to get better. They're not going to do the thing you fear the most.
Yeah.
And shopping your child is a big thing to do. But the bottom line is, and the parents that are not trained to spot and treat a psychopath, all the professionals that Rubicabana saw were trained in that.
Correct.
And I'm sick to death of hearing people like Starmer say at the end of this inquiry, this must never happen again. Oh, come on. It keeps on happening because you know why? Nobody in the state is ever held accountable.
Yes.
Not the social workers, not the psychiatrists, not the coppers. They're never held accountable. You cannot tell me that what happened to that boy was all down to his parents.
Yeah.
He was a product of our state, of our incompetent, woke, anti-racist state, and I have no doubt that the colour of his skin and the fact he was from Rwanda made them see him as a victim, not a potential mass murderer.
Well, that's what I think the head teacher had referred him to social services, and they'd said the teacher needs to tone down the language because it appears racist.
Yes, he took a knife to school, and the teacher said to him, "What are you going to do with that?" He went, "Use it." The teacher reported that, got told off because they were racially stereotyping. Come on, we've got to stop this. Remember Valdo Calacane was let out to murder those two young people and Ian Coates, the caretaker, because there were too many black people on the ward that day, and the nurses were frightened it would look racist. Forget this racist. Look at danger, not racist. And that's the problem with our public services. They've been poisoned by woke and political correctness to the point where they care more about process than people's lives. Tick a box, and they what with Rubicabana, they all ticked the box and said good to go, and he did go, and he murdered 3 little girls and tried to murder 10 more.
What I would say to Jenrick is, who's he? Has he got amnesia? Because Jenrick, mate, Robert, listen. Rubicabana was referred to Prevent in 2019.
3 times.
And twice in 2021 when Jenrick was in office with the Tories.
Yeah.
The Tories, they were saying that social services, the police, the Tories were in charge. The Tories had cut social services. They'd taken money out of it. And now he's acting as if he had nothing to do with it, and now he's pointing the finger at the Labour government.
But he's also playing to the gallery because, if you go on social media, a lot of people are saying on social media, deport the parents. That's not the answer to the problem because you know what? There are 10 more Rudicabanas waiting in the wings who will slip through the system in exactly the same way as that monster did. And that's what they should be concentrating on. We need one body that has real teeth, that can take on the very worst cases in this country and that can deal with them. Not 6 or 8 or 10 bodies where they all go through, no one talks to each other, no one reads the notes, they don't exchange emails. That's how he slipped through the system. Yeah. And no one wanted to take responsibility for him, I suspect because he was from Rwanda and because of the colour of his skin, and they might be accused of being racist.
Yeah. Well, let me just say the names of the 3 girls. Alice De Silva Aguirre, Baby King and Elsie Stancombe. Important to remember those
little girls would have been here today.
Families, and not the monster instead. Carole, that is it for today. Thank you so much.
It's nice to see you, darling.
Nice. Yeah, you actually look nice today.
And well, actually, look, it's a new jumper. I've got the price taggy thing still there. It's I quite like the colour.
It's nice.
It's a nice colour.
Is that from Oxfam?
No, it's a very nice designer, which ended up in TK Maxx.
Oh,
$34.99.
You get a lot of stuff in TK Maxx.
I get almost everything in TK Maxx.
Let's have to go on a shopping trip together.
Well, yeah,
we should film that.
Good men's stuff.
Yes.
Do you know? I did it. Have we got time? I did this thing
We've
once.
We've got time. Keep it rolling.
I did this thing once where they wanted to monitor people's brain activity about what happens to you when you spot a bargain or when you get something cheap, right? So they got me and a girl from the Times, and who didn't like shopping, whereas I did, and they put this cap on our heads. And all these wires were attached to us. And I had a little machine here. I was going around there and I was spotting the bargains, getting them in. And my machine was going nuts. It was screaming and shouting, whatever. Hers was like nothing. I thought nothing. Because she picked up 1 pair of jeans and something else. So I said to her, let me show you, because she couldn't find anything. I said, let me show you how it's done. Hers was pinging by the end of it. Trust me, her brain was going because I introduced her on how to search for them, how to look for them.
Yeah.
You've got to know.
Well, he said just from the Times.
She was from the
everything.
Times.
Nothing up there. Anyway, thank you for watching.
You'll be fired.
Like, share, subscribe, hit the hype button and leave your comments. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.